There was nothing. There was no marketing. It was just purely word of mouth. And so he put me through college. I told him, hey, Dad, I just graduated high school. I want to go ahead and work for you. And he goes, that's great, son. I'll see you in 4 years. You're going to college.
Please welcome America's service sales coach, Joe Crisara.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast, the show that helps home service professionals master high-value sales, build stronger client relationships, and grow their business like never before. Join industry experts as they share real strategies that drive results. If you're ready to level up your service game, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
It's the Service MVP Podcast.
Thank you for listening and watching the Service MVP Podcast. I want to give you a copy of my free book. Just click on the link below in the description and one will be sent to you from me personally. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Service MVP Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Ralphs, and today I have an incredible guest with us here today. I'm very excited to have Chris here. Chris is an expert in marketing, and I love that one thing that he's doing right now with his dad and their plumbing company is they are getting their marketing started. So they are starting with marketing, and they are really getting into the foundational things. And we were having a great conversation earlier today about kind of what goes into those foundational steps and what's important to build up for those initial companies. So Chris, thank you so much for being here. Can you give us a little bit of an introduction to you, the company that you're with, and the work that you guys have been doing?
Sure. Well, first off, thank you so much, Ethan, for having me on.
Of course.
This is a great honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get right into it. So my name's Chris, obviously. I'm with WiseWay Plumbing. And basically what we kind of did was we wanted to, my dad actually, when he started this company, I think it was around 20 years ago, there was nothing. There was no marketing. It was just purely word of mouth. And so he put me through college. I told him, hey, Dad, I just graduated high school. I want to go ahead and work for you. And he goes, that's great, son. I'll see you in 4 years. You're going to college. So I ended up getting a dual degree in management and marketing.
Oh, nice.
And I kind of put my heart and soul into it because I knew that my dad's livelihood depended on it. And so I ended up getting honors and all that, which is neither here nor there. But
I just happened to get honors, but that's neither here nor there. We're not going to skip past that. That's a big thing. That's a big deal.
Well,
so
I
think that goes to like you know what you're talking about, and you are very current with what you know. I think that's huge. I don't think that's here nor there. I think that's something to definitely highlight.
Well, thank you. Especially in high school, actually, I had a really crappy GPA. I had a 2.4 GPA. But, I guess it kind of goes to show you that you don't have to necessarily be smart in high school. As long as you have the dedication to whatever you really want to focus on, the world can be your oyster. So I did that. And I literally after I graduated that next Monday, I went straight to work for my dad. And the first thing that we ever did when I walked through those doors is I said, Dad, we're going to sit down and we're going to build a list. And it was going to be a list of things that are most important, things that are going to be done next, and things that are going to be looking towards the future with.
Yeah, I love that.
So it ranged from everything. I would say the biggest thing that was on our number one spot was getting a brand. 100% needed a brand. We had nothing, and we had white trucks rolling down the road, so nobody could see us. Nobody really heard of us unless you were a friend of a friend. So I said that's the biggest thing that we had to get down. Then it was we need to build a social presence, a digital presence, a digital footprint, and so we needed to build a website. That was one of the things I wanted to, and then I guess things like social media kind of followed, but everything really revolved around that brand. You need to have some kind of image that people see you and can associate you with. Also, it builds trust, and that was a big thing that going back to college that I learned. There's just a different level of trust. Like you wouldn't go to a Louis Vuitton store and expect to pay, $100 for a purse because it's Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's all brand. Next thing you know, you're going down a couple of blocks and you find that same exact purse, but it doesn't have that brand, and you're paying $100 for it. You know what I mean? So a lot of it it revolves around that. So we went ahead and did that. Then, and we use KickCharge. Am I allowed to use names here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. Yeah. So we found Tommy Mello. He recommended KickCharge, and they produced a great brand for us, and we're super, super stoked about it. What happened afterwards was we decided, oh, my God, now that we have this brand, we need to start getting our image out there. So we took to Google. We did all the different kinds of marketing that we could, SEO, PPC, LSA, so we can establish that and actually just get more customers in, right? And then we started looking into, I think actually Joe had one of the guys on his podcast that were talking about vans and getting that mobile ID from people so that you can start allowing people to get a visual understanding of your brand. And apparently I think there's a study that said, I think it was around impression number 6 or 7 that people actually start to form some kind of an opinion about your brand, right?
Yeah.
So we thought that was a great idea and that we should actually invest in something like that. So those are some of the current projects that we're working on right now.
I love that. And a couple of things that you mentioned and that we were actually talking about earlier today are around social media and online presence, as well as what you would call at this point the old school methods. I know a lot of people
guerrilla marketing.
It's getting the trucks branded. You were showing me getting the name on the shirt even. So it is getting that baseline of what we'll call the old school stuff, or getting the baseline of the stuff that's necessary for the in-person marketing, the stuff that people are actually going to see with their eyes physically there in person, as well as a mix with the new and the digital and everything that's going on online. I was so excited to have you on the show and to talk about this with, because you're a young guy, you're 23, you're just, getting your career started in this. And I think a lot of young people kind of see the social media branding and see, obviously, like even now, Google branding is, for a lot of young people, stuff on Google is just not even thought of. You go to, a lot of young people are going to ChatGPT to ask questions and are completely cutting Google out. So that's not even, Google is now kind of talked about in the same circles that Facebook was 5 years ago, where it's like, oh man, this big search engine that people are using is kind of getting phased out. So what I'm hoping for on this episode is, for all those people who don't have a son who just got a marketing degree with honors, who don't have that, what are going to be some like great initial steps and some good advice to give them from a younger perspective, and to see where the world is going in marketing, because it's good to rely on, yes, you need the trucks, you need the names on the t-shirts, but there's so much more than that now. What are you seeing in the world evolving right now beyond just what would have been acceptable 20, 25 years ago?
Well, I think currently right now, definitely a hybrid mix is still going on, because we're kind of in that transition phase, right? Where it's like, social media is beginning to get a much bigger presence. And that younger generation that grew up on tech is now, they're getting older and they might start looking at houses pretty soon. And so you're going to see the dynamics start to change. So that's why I think right now, with the current homeowners kind of growing up in a, I guess, technologicalist society. And young people kind of buying homes, it's a little bit of a mix of both. But in the future, 100%, it's going to be social media. And the reason being is just because, gosh, when you're watching TV, right? Let's just go ahead and think about this for a second. If we're watching TV and we're watching a TV show or something, and all of a sudden it ends, cuts to commercials, what are most people doing? Are they watching the commercials, or do they just take straight to their phones?
They're hopping on their phones.
Exactly. Right. So that's where you want to be. You want people to, look at your ads, and that's super duper important. Going forward, especially in the next years that are going to follow. Another thing that's kind of driving that wave, at least for people in the home service industry, is just the fact that Google has gotten so expensive with their ads, and the cost of actually getting a customer is insane compared to where it used to be a few years ago.
I know that a lot of people are having discussions right now about, hey, should we even still be on Google, because it's costing me what I would be making just to acquire the customer, and that's where a lot of social media is filling the gap there. And I do want to say, I know, yes, we're talking about social media. I have seen the metrics on our last couple of podcasts where we've talked about social media. As soon as we start talking about it, there's a drop off. But I do want to say this. I know a lot of people and I'm sure you've seen this in the industry, it's that mindset of, oh, I don't want to do, it's like, social media, it's whatever, it's the younger people thing. It's the, even if you're talking about Facebook, there's a lot of older business owners. There's a lot of older people in the trades who are like, I don't like social media. I'm never going to get it. I'm just not even going to implement it. And the one thing that I keep thinking about is it's like tough shit. That's where your customers are.
Yeah.
You have to get used to it, or you're going to be fading into the background, and you're not going to be getting those customers that your competition is getting, who are leveraging social media in the right ways. So, the people listening to this, if you're not doing it right now, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So it's one of those things that you got to start establishing right now. What do you see as the advantage of, let's say we have two competitors, two plumbing businesses. One has a robust social media presence. They aren't doing anything fancy, but they're staying consistent. They're posting. They are keeping their presence known and their brand alive there, versus a competitor who does the exact same job, has the exact same pricing. Their staff is comparable. Everything is the same, but they're not on social media. What do you see as the drivers of success for both?
Okay. Well, that was a lot.
I know I threw a lot at you, but
no,
just getting to the essence of it is what's going to be the difference there between someone who has social media and someone who doesn't.
One is innovative, and the other one is going to be the way of the dodo bird. And here's why. In one of my classes, actually, it was my capstone class. The entire course was literally about being innovative. Why companies fail, why companies grow. Here's a great example: Blockbuster. Right? What happened to those guys? They were industry leaders because they had the ability for somebody to actually go into a store, check out a DVD, and then return it, right? And that worked well for a number of years until Netflix came around. And what was Blockbuster's response to that? Nothing. Literally nothing.
Yeah.
And so what happened to Blockbuster, right? Netflix saw that trend. They saw the way it was going. They hopped on that. They hopped on that cruise ship and. They sailed off into the sunset. Look at them now, right? So the same thing could be said for the trades too. You need to constantly be innovating yourself, because I guarantee you, if you're not, your competition is going to be, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's huge. My girlfriend and I have lately been getting into just binging Kitchen Nightmares, the old Gordon Ramsay Kitchen Nightmares episodes. And the biggest thing that we always see that is the same thing with companies in the trades right now is these owners who are saying, no, my food is good. It's all of the customers who just don't care for the taste. And we keep screaming at the TV saying, yes, that's how you're making your money. It doesn't matter if you have to make concessions in order to get those customers in for what the customers like and what the customers are looking for. That's how you're going to make your money. So it's very similar with marketing is like you said with the dodo bird. You're either going to be, innovating and moving on with the times into ways that your customers are interacting and the ways that your customers are viewing media online, the ways that they are looking at reviews, the ways that they are searching for companies, all of that stuff. Either you're going to be moving with the times or people are going to be dropping off. Right. I think I was seeing something that it was like 85% of people before they choose a brand or a company will go to some form of social media for them first. That's establishing credibility. That's what that is doing. That is all that is doing. So I know we're talking a lot about social media here, but what are some of those kind of, let's say, newer, encapsulating the last 10 to 15 years, what are some of the newer media or newer marketing techniques that you guys are using, that you guys have been implementing from the get-go?
Well, I would say TikTok, right?
That's a big one.
Yeah. Found out a statistic, and most people, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but are most people that look up plumbing companies the women because they just feel like they want to have somebody that's they trust in their home? Absolutely.
Yeah, there. I've actually seen there's a couple of interesting. I could go down a whole rabbit hole of TikTok searches in the plumbing industry, but women right now are in a majority of cases are like. There's a huge wave of them going to social media for recommendations for plumbing companies. And then even beyond that, there's a smaller percentage of men that do the exact same, but there's still a huge market of, interestingly, men who are going to TikTok for how-to videos. And so that's a huge like unexplored market is
That too,
these
yeah.
little how-to videos that is going to then lead, let's say, you know, there's a guy who wants to fix some plumbing issue that he's got in his house by himself. If he looks up a how-to video that comes from, let's say it's coming from your company, and he looks up a little how-to video and does it himself, and then he realizes, shit, this is bigger than I'm able to handle. He's not going to then go to another company. He's going to say, hey, who is doing the how-to video? Can I call them up right now and can I talk to them?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's this huge shift in not just how people are getting in contact with you, but the steps that they take before they get in contact with you.
Yeah.
So I want to know for you guys, what are you guys doing to kind of nurture your potential customers? What are you guys doing before the actual call happens to encourage people to call and to write you guys or to submit a message online?
So yeah, we're just starting to kind of dive into that right now.
Yeah.
But what I just found out that I thought was really interesting was that from the younger generation side, from the people that are using tech, 50% of people are going to TikTok to use, you know, to Google stuff, or sorry, not to Google stuff.
Yeah.
But search things instead of Google.
That's the verb, is to Google. That's
exactly.
that's always going to be the thing. But yeah, to search for
Search for anything.
anything.
Yeah. Literally products. You know, TikTok shop, right?
Yeah.
That's huge. Hey, find a plumber near me. People are going to see like, hey, here's a list of plumbers, at least the few that are actually on social media.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to see those guys and be like, hey, wait a minute. I just I clicked on their page, and they have a bunch of cool, fun things that they're doing on there. I kind of like these guys. I could trust them in my home.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give them a call.
That's awesome. That's one thing that we were talking about creating the entertainment versus making it a sale all the time. Years ago, when you're posting something on Google, that is purely transactional. You're not Googling plumbers near me for any sort of entertainment content.
Right.
But now that has to be kind of a key component. You were telling me that you were talking to one of your friends who is a social media influencer. I would love to hear more about kind of what she was talking about with you and the conversation that you guys had, the importance of that entertainment piece of it.
Yeah. So it was funny. I reached out to her because she's been doing social media. She actually did the social media for our college, and really boosted up the amount of followers and viewers that she had on all of her posts. And now she's on her own thing. But some of the questions that I had for her was like, hey, what's your take on this? Why would you want to get into this industry? And she kind of responded with, well, look, regardless of whether people think it's dumb or not, especially people in the trades, right?
Yeah.
It's actually like going to be the way of the future. And, it's just coming down the pipe no matter what. So I'm going to hop on it. And basically what she told me were TikTok was the number one search engine for people that were younger.
Yeah.
Followed by Instagram and Snapchat and stuff like that. So those are some of the questions that I kind of wanted to figure out where the trends were going. She recommended to me that I have to post for our company about 5 times a week, just to start off.
Yeah.
5 times a week because people like consistency. Those social media those social media apps like consistency. And so if you are consistent, they're going to show it to more people.
Yep.
More likes equals more people equals, potential lead generating customers.
Absolutely.
Right?
And one thing I do want to touch on real quick that just reminded me of is right now we're talking a lot about customer acquisition. We're talking about pulling in the customer for the first time. And I just want to stress the importance of repeat customers with putting out stuff like if you have a plumbing company, and it may seem to a lot of people like it's this far out there idea of you have a plumber come to your house and then you follow them on Instagram. It's just, there seems to be some sort of disconnect there. But if that's the culture that you're able to create, where you leave behind any materials you leave behind, whatever paperwork that you leave behind after you've done a job, or you send an invoice or whatever you have afterwards, leaving your social media handles on there. If you get follows from people on that, the next time something comes up, the next time someone has a plumbing issue, it may not be an emergency situation that they're calling you for, but it may just be enough to where they have some slight inconvenience that's happened to them. And that same day, because they're following you on Instagram or on TikTok or wherever, they see a video that you did that sparks that idea. Oh, I should probably call them. Boom, you've got a repeat customer that is there weeks to months before they would have called you anyways if they had let the thing get to an extreme place.
Yeah.
And so I really want to stress the importance of like the repeat customers with this as well as a whole new avenue. You're continuing to engage. If you just need a checkup on your system, boom, you have that one person who you are following.
Yep. You're in their subconscious mind. Yeah. In
And
the
that's
background,
space you can't buy.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially like you said, proactive approach. They're going to be taking those proactive approaches. I mean, when the holidays come around, right?
Yep.
They're going to be like, oh my God, wait, that's a really funny post from WiseWay. I like the post that they just had with like a bunch of their entire staff might have had Christmas hats on and made like a funny joke about it.
Yep.
And they're going to think about that. They're going to think about that, and they're going to be like, oh my God, wait a minute, I'm having a Christmas party. I wouldn't want something to go out because it'd be pretty embarrassing for my guest. Maybe I can call them for a home inspection, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, they know you, they trust you. They're a lot more likely to spend more money with you, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, especially the lifetime revenue of a customer. That was a crazy statistic that I found out, and I don't really know how true this is, but in one of my textbooks that I read, it was if you save 5% of the customers that you lose a year, it amounts for like 80% of revenue, like that you actually make.
It's that high.
It was some mind blowing fact like that. I can actually
I would
look
love
into
to,
it and then send you the
I would love to hear about that
statistic. Yeah,
that's cool.
But no, yeah, lifetime revenue of a customer, super duper important. And like you said, it kind of all ties back into, well, hey, how do I get those lifetime customers? I got to keep reaching out to them, keeping them in the know that, hey, we exist, we're out here, we can go ahead and help you, right?
Yeah.
And
the amount of times that you hear from people, oh, they're still in business. Oh, they're still around.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
Wow, and that should never be a scenario, especially in today's world where you have a million constant touch points with different brands and companies and people throughout the day. It should never be a question of whether you're still open or not, let alone providing great services for people.
Right.
I'd love to kind of switch gears just a little bit, because another great conversation that we were having earlier was about getting CRMs set up and getting your internal structures going. And I know that that's something that you guys are in the middle of working on. I want to know, kind of, as you're going through it, what are some of the biggest lessons that you guys have learned that maybe there was a roadblock that happened that we can keep others from having happen to them?
Trust your gut. That's what I would say. It's
That's
the biggest thing, right? Super, vague, but but it's true. It's like you have to trust your gut. There have been pitfalls and mistakes that we've made. If something doesn't feel right, probably don't do it. Do your research and then make a decision. Don't buy anything off of emotion. That's like the worst possible thing you can do. And I mean, I'm human, you're human. Like we've all made decisions that we've been like, oh my God, in the moment it seemed great, right? Yeah. It seemed like this new feature had all these fancy bells and whistles, and we're like, oh my God, let's go ahead and maybe opt into this subscription. Yeah. But then you realize a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, oh my God, I'm not using it, or it didn't live up to the expectations, and now I'm $3,000 in the pot.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why one of the things that I stress is that monthly check-in with your subscriptions is, because that's what the subscription model is. It counts on you subscribing the first time and then flying just under the radar enough to where it keeps charging you. And especially for small businesses that are just starting out, that don't have a ton of revenue going for them, those things add up. So if you do make that purchase, I think a great point that you're bringing up is have that conversation and, okay, am I really going to use it in the next month? Yeah. Maybe not. So let's, take it off of the expense sheet and move forward without it.
Yeah. I mean, there have been plenty of times where my dad and I, we would sit there and hear this amazing presentation from this company. And, I, being young and dumb, I wanted to jump into it. I was like, oh my God, this seems great. Let's go ahead and do it. Yeah. And he would just say, hold on there. Right. Let's take a day to think about it. And then a day would turn into a week, but we'd have little conversations about it. And then after that week, it kind of went from, hey, let's go ahead and do this right now. Let's, get ahead of the competition to, oh, wait a minute, let's maybe pull back and really think about how effective this is going to be. And if it's not, well then, hey, we dodged a bullet.
Yeah. You were talking earlier about how when you first came on board with your dad and WiseWay, you had created kind of a list of like a priority list or a list of things that you guys needed to accomplish. Was there anything that happened either on that list or not where you felt like you kind of put the cart before the horse and you jumped the gun a little bit on something, or was everything going kind of exactly to that checklist?
I would say pretty much everything was done a little bit backwards. The branding, I love the branding, but it took a little bit longer than we expected. Now, you can't rush perfection, right?
Yep.
And I'm glad we took the time to wait and make sure everything was 100% right. But we kind of realized really quickly that everything had to be done post branding.
Yeah.
And so we knew that, but we said, hey, like we can't wait. So one of the things we did was LSA, and it worked for, it didn't really work, honestly, because there was no brand, right? Nobody knew the name. And so it was kind of like, oh my God, maybe we should have waited. Now we're okay. Now we're getting, back under our feet. But yeah, that was one of the things. Another thing was building a website. So we didn't really have it in our budget to be able to pay somebody to build out a website for us. On top of that, we didn't have a brand, and we were going to change our name. So I couldn't necessarily, God, I lost my train of thought. Oh my God.
You're good. Okay. So,
talking about website,
you're talking about
jumping that. Oh yeah. Basically I built a website with our old, plumbing name, and that kind of failed because it didn't look great. All right. And now it's got a pretty good domain ranking, and it's got good viewing. It's got good viewership, but it's a completely different domain.
Yeah.
And now there's zero traffic going to that. And I've wasted all that time.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, as far as an end product goes, we were just looking at callwiseway.com. I'm going to throw that out there. I'm going to say it a couple times, callwiseway.com. But I just get a little bit of a plug in there for you. But we were looking at that earlier. And I will say, as a final product, you guys definitely landed where you guys needed to land. It's a beautiful website. It looks awesome. What went into that website that wasn't going into the previous website, that wasn't working, wasn't getting that domain ranking?
I would just say research. Research was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I actually, on the first website when I was designing it, I didn't actually download one of those, there's Yoast and there's Rank Math that are like the top two SEO programs to download. Yeah. I didn't download either of those for my first website. I downloaded those the second time around. And so I downloaded Rank Math into Call WiseWay, and then I realized, oh my God, I have to have backlinks and links into every single page.
All this stuff you don't even think about.
Links.
Yeah.
It was a crap ton of things that I had to learn. It was a huge learning curve, and it made me a better website designer after it. But all those things, keywords, your H1s, your H2s, like I'm sure most of the viewers don't even know
I was going to say, like, we're working on our H1s and H2s. We just did a website rebuild, and that was actually today. I just sent over to the development team a couple of updates that they needed to make for those. But I think all of this language around SEO and all of that stuff is an awesome conversation to have. But I do want to also talk about, like, the absolute basics of, you don't need to have all of that stuff just to get your website out there. Yes, if you can hire someone, website building is not everyone's forte. Yeah. If you can, hire someone, awesome. But I want to hear your thoughts on, like, the basics as far as pick your color scheme. Pick the type of voice and tone that you're going to be using on your website. Build out the website structure. What services do you offer, and put those on different pages? Even when it comes down to just like a basic structure. I mean, it is building the house. You can't start putting the insulation in if you don't have the structure up. Right. So tell me a little bit about kind of those foundational building blocks to even get started.
Okay, so colors. First time around, it was red and blue, right? It was up to code plumbing. If you guys want to look it up, it's pretty awful. But it was red and blue, and I really didn't. There's only so much you can actually do with those colors. Yeah. And especially since, like, a lot of people are using them, it's just really, it's really
plumber,
tough to separate yourself.
HVAC, everyone's got red, white, and blue. That's every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we got our color palette from KickCharge,
Yeah.
I knew that I had to stay around those colors, and so that kind of helped me with my coloring question. I would say for content, the first time around I made it a lot more informative, kind of like as if a tech were reading it, a technician,
Yeah.
and it was just like, hey, like this is great. Until I realized our target audience aren't going to be technicians or people that know the trades. They're going to be homeowners, wives that have no clue about like a downspout drain. And it's like, okay, so I designed it to be like a little bit more friendly.
Yeah.
And I kind of made the language a little bit easier for them to understand, and that really helped us out with our website.
That's huge because people aren't calling a plumber because they know what to do. So all of that complex language that you're using on a website, it's if a tech can read it, the tech is probably doing their own plumbing and they won't even need to call you in the first place. So it really is about tailoring to that audience. What did you guys do? So you got the brand colors, you got the language down. How did that, you were talking about the trucks earlier. What kind of went into branding the trucks, getting the shirts? What other like physical product and things that are actually like physical things did you guys work on after that?
Trucks were a big thing. There was a study said on average, if your technician is going to be driving down the road in a branded vehicle, there's going to be about 3,500 impressions per week that they're going to be seeing your van. Yep. They're going to be remembering that truck that rolled down the side of the highway or in their neighborhood, and that was the biggest thing that we had to do. The second thing was your presence, right? If you show up with no uniform, you really don't really have much of a strong brand identity. You don't look the part. And so people respond to how you dress. And so we wanted to make sure that we were dressed, the best.
Yeah.
And so that was the second biggest thing. Then I would say stuff like business cards, yard signs. Those were definitely in the works too. Stickers on everything.
Yep.
Garbage disposals, tankless water heaters, tank water heaters, all that kind of stuff. We really need to. We're still kind of developing right now, but we're gonna definitely get that out there too, because people are going to be going under their kitchens, right? They're going to be looking, I need to clean the kitchen. Most of the cleaning stuff's under there.
Yep.
And if they could see your brand, they might not, look at it, right? But it's like we were talking about earlier, it's subconsciously there.
Yeah.
So
one of those things that I would say too, that it flies under the radar a lot, but if you have a company email, having the logo in, even if you just have like a Gmail, adding the company logo to your profile, or adding the logo onto your invoices, making sure that the invoices has your company name and all the correct information and all that stuff. All of these like little things that once you figure out, logo, color scheme, all of that stuff, it's throw that everywhere. Every single thing that you do should have that branding on it. And then, outside of that, it's anytime someone comes in contact with you, it's the first of those six. You said it was six impressions before they get to consider your company. Yeah. So all of those are opportunities to just be that first of the six, which is huge. So now I want to transfer all of that into why you and why your dad is actually here today as well is programs like Total Immersion. So, we have branding and we have the marketing. I would say that doing a program like Total Immersion is not just sales. It is also marketing, because being able to provide a quality experience for your customers, being able to provide options, all of those things, magic moments, all of these things are creating that warm and comforting feeling in your customer that, again, you're living in their head. That's the marketing that you can't buy. So I would call that marketing just as much as it is sales. Tell me a little bit about the importance of Total Immersion and the kind of the continued education for your dad and your company and for yourself coming to a program like this.
Yeah. So when you have a brand, that gets you in the door. It gets you in the door, right? But and then after that, it's like, well, what's next, right? Yep. You need customer service, you need training. And that was something that we realized, oh my God, shoot. Well, we got a great brand, right? Yep. We got, like you said, marketing. But how are we going to be able to solidify that bond between us and our technicians? Or sorry, our customers and our technicians? and service MVP was our answer. And it was really clear cut from the beginning. These guys, you guys focus on building that relationship, making sure that you're not going to be some sleazy scamming plumber or HVAC technician, what have you.
Yeah.
That are going to be in for a quick buck and out, right? You guys want to develop those relationships, build that lifetime revenue, and kind of focus on those things. So we took that leap, and we have not regretted it since.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do mention that not just to give Service MVP a little plug and to promote total immersion, but to also bring in the pure motives that we talk about in your customer interactions. If you're a tech at someone's house, being there to help service them in their home is, huge. Providing them options and providing them with the best service possible and having those pure motives also translates into marketing. I think a lot of people, when they talk about marketing, thinking about Mad Men and all of these, the ways that marketing is perceived is, I'm going to trick you into buying something. I'm going to trick you into buying something you don't need.
Yeah.
And especially 1,000 times more in the trades than it is with anything else, marketing needs to have those same pure motives, needs to have the same exact, we're here to help you. We are here to provide a service. We want you to select WiseWay Plumbing because we know that when we show up at your door, we're going to be providing the best service for you possible, and we are going to be providing you with options. We're going to be getting you exactly what you need. And that's not a selfish thing. That is actually the opposite. It's a selfless thing, is you're trying to provide people in their homes with the most security and the best services possible. So having that in, like we talked about, your social media, having that in your branding, having that exact same mindset throughout the entire process, using those pure motives to not be a sleazy marketer, like some people in the industry are, but to use those pure motives and to actually come from a genuine place. So I'd love to, as kind of our final closeout, hear how you guys are coming at it from that perspective, where you're not tricking people into using your services. You are providing the best services possible and using that as marketing.
Yeah. I think that's definitely what's going to give us our competitive advantage over other people, because the most effective actually method of marketing is going to be word of mouth. And if you give your customers those same motives, or like I guess what did you refer to them as?
Pure motives. Yeah,
pure motives. I don't know why I forgot
you're
about
good.
them. But when you hit customers with those pure motives, they're going to tell their friends.
Yeah.
They're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their family, and then obviously they're going to want to use you. I mean, who wouldn't want to use a company that actually, is nice to people, actually cares about, the health and safety of their family. It was
cares about their employees when they post the Santa hat photos on their social media, like you mentioned. Yeah, that's huge. So thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an awesome conversation. I'm sure everyone has learned a ton. Just as we finally close out, let us know, where can we find you? We already talked about callwiseway.com. Tell us where we can find you. What area do you guys service? What do you guys provide? And where can people find you?
We're based and located out of Torrance. It's where we got our shop. And you can honestly find, I'll give you my personal phone number. It's going to be 310-809-9322. That's my direct cell phone number. I'll answer it. I'm pretty much available at all hours of the day. You can go ahead and ask me any questions you want, and I'll be happy to help you out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. This has been awesome. And thank you everyone for listening. And we can't wait to see you guys next time.
Thanks.
Bye.